within the multiple roles of women and the emancipation, a perspective of modern women. I want to thank the organizers for the event, organizing the event in August, which is Women's Month. And I am especially pleased because I chair the Gender Forum of the institution to be able to come and grace this occasion. Now, women have multiple roles, as the theme of the day indicates, and some of them are imposed upon us by socialization, and some we assume ourselves. But it is worse for African women because of the strong traditions and customs that we have. But as modern women, it is important that you learn to navigate the spaces that you operate in, and also to try and be at peace with everyone. Particularly, I'm going to address young women because for us, we've been there, we've done that, we bought the t-shirts. But for you, your journeys are just beginning. So I want to address you particularly about how you can try and create a balance between the multiple roles that you play. Just before I get to the tips that I want to hand over to young women, some of the roles that women play, you know, apart from being mothers and sisters and daughters, but you find yourself as a nurturer, you find yourself as a counselor, you find yourself as an accountant, sometimes you are a healer. You know, there are many expectations of us. And the other day, I was laughing because somebody shared a video of a couple fighting. The husband wants the woman to warm the milk for him. And he says, "You've been sitting here all day, so all I'm asking of you is to warm the milk." That's a very incorrect perception we have of people who stay at home. They clean the house, they do washing, they cook, you know, the list goes on. If there are children, they've got to bath the children, they've got to feed the children, the child is sick, the child is, you know, the list goes on and on. So I take my hat off to home executives. But back to the topic of today, I said I want to give you young women some signposts that will help you in your journeys as you try and reach for the skies. The first one is to choose your battles. You don't have to fight every battle that's thrown your way. It's very important that you choose what is important, what is critical for you, and you defend that. But other battles, just let them go by. You know, you won't lose anything. The second one is to be very careful about how you define yourself. Don't define yourself using other people's terms. You know, don't look at your life through other people's lenses, because that will confuse you. Also, it will get you frustrated. For example, when we look at women in rural areas, we look at them from our own perspective. But when they look at themselves, when we look at them, we see oppressed women, we feel sorry for them. But when they look at themselves, they are usually happy with their lives. And we shouldn't influence them in seeing their lives through our lenses. So it's important for you as well to look at your lives through your own lenses, not through others. As you become more advanced, maybe, then you assume new lenses, but never use other people's lenses to look at your life, because you will get frustrated and you will get confused also. Another signpost that I want to share is that you are never in competition with other people except yourself. I want to be a better version of myself next year. You should want to be a better version of yourself next year. You may be encouraged by what you see in others, but compete with yourself, not with other people, not with your sisters, your cousins, your friends. Those are your support, they are not competition. You will not improve if you are constantly trying to be like other people. You have your own journey. So stick to your lane, see what you like, adopt some of the things that you like, and try and implement them in your own life, but don't compete with others. You will fail dismally because you are not them. So it's your life, it's your dreams. At the end of it all, I think it's very important when you come to the end of your life to look back and say, I did it my way and I did it the best way I could. But you can't be doing Mobile's life. If you are not Mobile, don't try and be Mobile. Learn from Mobile, learn from Sizagele, learn from Dr. So-and-so, but do your own life. Do you, as they normally say. And lastly, I want to say emancipation means being able to dream big. When we were young girls, the women that we grew up amongst were either housewives or domestic workers, and the few that were educated were nurses or teachers. So those were our role models. Okay. Now today you can be anything you want, as long as you're willing to work for it. It doesn't come on a tray, on a platter. You have to work for it. As a woman, there's nothing more liberating than having a family that supports you. So I want to say, look after your family. I'm talking about your parents, it could be your sisters, it could be your children, your spouse or your partner. No matter how successful you are, if you detach from your family, which is your support base, you'll have nobody to share your success with. And that can be very, very low. So whatever you do, don't neglect your support base. Make sure that you remain in touch with those who matter in your life. And if you do that, then you'll be able to create that balance. Now, before I close, I just want to share a story of a very successful woman that I used to work with. She came, originally she's from Lesotho, and she says, you know, Sisi, when I go home as Lali, I am not this sophisticated woman that you see. I stay with the women, I know my place, but when I come here, I assume the leadership position that you know me for. I'm a professor here, I drive my own car, I have my own house, I wake up when I want to wake up, all those things. But when I'm in rural areas, I do what is expected of women because I don't want to cause waves. That's what being smart is all about. Navigating your spaces and knowing what is appropriate and where. That is what I mean by choose the battles. Because if you try and be a professor in rural areas, nobody cares what a professor is. You don't even know what a professor is. But instead they'll be saying, Akavila, uvuka ngo-10. Yintoni la ibheke kwini? Yini le nto ayiloko iphethe besho laptop yakho? Yini le nto ehamba nayo angase, you know? So choose your battles, but also learn how to navigate your spaces. When you are in an area where women sit on one side, don't try and go and sit with the men. You know, that's being smart. But I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you here today. And I really hope you will enjoy the deliberations. Whether you are male or female, I hope out of the discussions you will learn something, especially males, that you will learn how to support the women in your life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof, for the welcoming opening and also the things you put. I guess it made it different because already it's a tone to what are we here for. And then on our program, the next item will be SASUF's input, of which will be done by the coordinator of SASUF, Helen Beckman.
Hi everyone, my name is Helen Beckman-Kartal and I work as the project coordinator for South Africa-Sweden University Forum, also very commonly referred to as SASUF. And to just give you a quick crash course in what SASUF is, it's a collaboration between 40 different universities in Sweden and South Africa, all of them focusing on strengthening the collaboration between our two countries, focusing on the areas of research and education. And all of us are also jointly working towards the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And this project, it's funded from both sides. It's mutually funded from both Sweden and South Africa, since we all know that we can learn so much from each other. And we can achieve so much more by just collaborating over the country borders, because there is so much expertise in both our countries. So why not combine it? So we're mutually funded by the universities in both countries, as well as by funding agencies in both countries. And we work with the main strategy of research and innovation weeks and so-called seed funding. So during these research and innovation weeks, that is when you meet your friends. That is when researchers meet other researchers and they can brainstorm different ideas. They can realize, wow, this person from South Africa is interested in the same thing as I am. And I'm from Sweden, focusing on, for example, climate change. And then they combine their ideas about climate change and their focus area. And then they apply for what we call seed funding, to plant their little seed, to plant their seed idea, and hopefully make it grow up to a plant. So that is why we call it seed funding, to give the most promising ideas a way to grow. But I'm of course not here today to just talk about SASUF. That was a brief introduction. I'm here today to say that you are doing such a good job, really. With this session that you're going to do today, I must say I'm sad that I can't be here to join you in person, but focusing on the topic to discover the equilibrium within the triple burden roles and women emancipation, bringing up the perspective of a modern day woman. That is a really, really important topic to bring up. And I'm so happy and I'm so proud to see the SASUF Student Network hosting today's session. And also I must give some special credit to you guys at University of Zululand that actually have your own locally based SASUF student network. And thank you for being in the forefront and being such a great example for other universities as well, since you really have a dedicated and ambitious team of students raising these important questions and sharing your ideas. I'm just so happy to see this. And this is not a topic that is only important for South Africa or only important for Sweden. This is a worldwide topic that is really important to just bring up, to start a dialogue about, to bring up for discussion. And I heard that you're going to discuss how successful women have to find a balance between being a mother, being a colleague, being a daughter, being a sibling, and also coping with all these societal expectations as well. And this is not easy roles to have. It really isn't. So thank you guys for bringing this up for a conversation. And with this said, I'm sending some greetings from Sweden, and I wish you all a continued lovely day, and I really hope that this dialogue becomes a success. Thank you so much, and bye for now.
Let's give a round of applause to them. And that was Helen Beckham, who is
Greetings are extended to the House. I'm Ebo Zungu. Mine is to introduce our keynote speaker today, that is Advocate Heidi Skuman. Advocate Heidi Skuman is a senior lecturer in the Department of Law at the University of Zululand. Previously, she was the head of the program law at the Independent Institute of Education, and before, she was a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Law at the University of Johannesburg. Before Ms. Skuman joined the world of academia, she held various positions as legal advisor and legal researcher at small, medium, and large corporations. She was also the Pretoria Advice Office Director of the Black Sash in the 90s. Ms. Skuman is an advocate of the High Court of South Africa and successfully completed pupillage at the Johannesburg Bar. Throughout her academic career, Ms. Skuman has lectured a variety of subjects, which most of which are commercial in nature. She has lectured modules at various NQF levels and in a variety of qualification types. Ms. Skuman specializes in teaching law to non-law students. She has established various successful tutor programs throughout her academic career. She is also the academic coordinator of the Faculty of Commerce, Administration, and Law's peer mentorship program. In 2019, Ms. Skuman came second in the Vice Chancellor's Award for Teaching Excellence in the Developed category. Ms. Skuman has a keen interest in teaching law by making use of learning technologies. She has presented various papers, both nationally and internationally, on this topic. Her qualifications are a Bachelor of Laws in the University of Pretoria, LLM from UNISA, which is the University of South Africa, and the Diploma in Corporate Law from UJ, which she completed with cum laude. And then her research interests are legal education, the use of learning technologies in higher education, and cyber law. Then her professional membership, she is an advocate of the High Court of South Africa.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm going to share my screen. Is that okay? So just so many screens open. Okay, so again, thank you very much to the SASUF Kinizulu representatives who have invited me to speak to you. I'm going to talk to you a bit about the modern woman and from a legal perspective. I did work in the field of domestic violence previously. It is something that is very close to my heart, and I was the Black Sash Office Director in the early 90s in Pretoria. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you at the Women in Leadership workshop. If we look at the traditional roles of today's woman, there is, traditionally she was seen as mother and wife, and then later on an employee. Today it's changed a bit. She may choose to marry or not. She may choose to become a mother or not. There is an increase in South Africa, but across the world, in women who are students, and in particular in postgraduate students, employees, female employees, and also then with an increase in managerial positions. But that is not all that she does. These are just sort of some of the things that I when I was thinking about it, and what I also saw online is, as a woman, you're a partner, provider, an organizer of your home. At the office, you administer how things operate in your home environment, in your family environment, and the office environment. You may be the director, disburser of funds, breadwinner. Very often women in South Africa are now breadwinners. You an educator, so or a teacher, and so as a mother or as an auntie or someone, one becomes a role model also, in particular for the girls, the younger girls. But you have to act as a psychologist, disciplinarian, as a nurse, healthy lifestyle manager, etc., etc., etc. So women are often exhausted, but you do not have to be superwoman. it is important to make time for yourself. Women often feel that they're being selfish if they want me time, but one needs time to recalibrate. Women generally, and myself in that category, is we have a great difficulty with a two-letter word, and that is to say no. Not that that you don't want to do things, but it's one's plate is already so full and one is overburdened, and one ends up still taking more and more on, whether it's in your home life, your personal life, your business life, any of the other roles that you fulfill. And one needs to learn to say no. One needs to look after yourself emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Ask for help. You're not superwoman. No one is superwoman. Even people who come across as superwoman have help in the background, and know your rights, which is sort of the point that I'm going into now. So women's rights is very much entrenched in feminism. So the traditional perspectives of feminism is equality on a political, economic, and in the social spheres. And it was seen, and it is still seen, and I do believe that patriarchy and an imbalance in power still keep women back. It's one thing to have legislation, it's another thing to enforce it. Just very briefly, there are debates about when feminism started. Some people say for the 1600s. Most scholars seem to think, and I'm looking specifically at the US because they've had a very big impact on the role of feminism in achieving equality for women. So in the late 19th century, early 20th centuries, it was specifically to open up about opportunities for women, and there was a focus of universal suffrage, the ability of women to vote. Between the 60s and 90s, it was about reproductive rights, equal rights, sexuality, and although a lot of gains had been made in the USA about reproductive rights and equality and everything else, with the recent striking down of Roe versus Wade by the Supreme Court in the States, it's put back women's rights in a developed country so far back. Mid-90s, there was sort of, based on post-colonial, postmodern thinking about the establishing specific constructs about your body and then gender, sexuality, questioning heteronormativity, etc. And more recently, it's a wave that is still there, but it's based as a result of geopolitical changes and I put in inverted commas the abnormal sense of conservatism. Conservatism in the States, and you can go and read up on that if you're interested, has a very different meaning than what it has in South Africa, but it's got to do with the non-binary identification and sort of almost going back to some of the traditional concepts about equality, but also changing the understanding. Some of the well-known feminists in American world of feminism, if you've ever studied that, Sojourner Truth was an abolitionist, and she's well known for to say ain't I a woman in 1851. So why can't I vote? She was very strong on that. The modern sense of feminism is found is synonymous with Betty Friedan, and one cannot be a scholar of feminism and not know about Gloria Steinem. However, in South Africa, we also have our own woman. So the advancing of women's rights in South Africa, it started, and yes, it's entrenched in the racial past of South Africa too. In 1892, no woman, regardless of gender, regardless of race, had the ability to vote. In 1930, the Women's Enfranchisement Association of the Union, which was a white women's organization, marched to secure the right to vote, and they eventually were allowed to vote. And the first female that was ever appointed in Parliament was Lyra Rates. Important in the more modern sphere is in 1956 with the March on Pretoria. People may know this. There are so many important women, Ruth First, Ma Linian, all of these women were saying, you cannot extend the carrying of passes to women. Watanta Bafazi, Watanta Imboko Fodo, apologies for the atrocious pronunciation. You strike a woman, you strike a rock. Mawini said that numerous times when she was disenfranchised, and it is still an important concept, but the real motivator, the women's rights in South Africa really gained momentum when South Africa became a democracy in 1994. So before we sort of look at some of the laws in South Africa that protect women and advance women's rights, some of the traditional things is universal suffrage, the right to vote, sexual and reproductive rights. South Africa is far more advanced than the USA, for example, in particular, since the striking down of Roe versus Wade very recently. The ability to move freely. In some countries, a woman cannot move freely. She needs to be escorted by a guardian. In South Africa, again, related to the apartheid regime, Black women were perpetual minors, which meant that she was under the protection or auspices of her father, and then when she got married, that of her husband. And even there, that is something that the laws were changed, and we'll look at that. Equal employment, equal pay for equal work, that is a biggie. That both of them, the glass ceiling, you may have heard about that, where women were prevented from rising because it was seen that, well, men should be the breadwinners, winners, and why should a woman go? And even if she gets to the top, she's just a woman. She doesn't need to get paid, deserve to get paid the same as a man does for the same work. The right to education. In Afghanistan recently, when the Taliban took over again, girls and their education was infringed upon again. They used to be able to go to school, and now there's no need, there's very limited education. Healthcare, not to be unfairly discriminated against, freedom from violence, which includes not to be forced into sexual slavery or slavery otherwise, online abuse, non-disclosure of personal information, the ability to own property. That links up again with the perpetual minority and the right to choose. These are some of the rights that are considered to be women's rights, and these are the rights that in particular the younger generation of women need to still demand as their rights. So there is a department or a section, the UN's women's section, and it is a part of the United Nations, and there's some guiding documentation that guides the rights of women. The most important one of that is CEDAW, which has been described as the Bill of Rights for Women. So the convention, South Africa is a signatory, and it was enacted into law in South Africa. The Beijing Declaration for Platforms of Action, where governments made commitments to ensure regular feedback and plans and reviews of how far they have come. The UN's initially, the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security in the year 2000. Since then, 7 more were adopted, and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. These are the goals that are set, and South Africa, being a member of the UN, was actually had fairly recently participated in a voluntary review of how far South Africa has come in meeting these sustainable development goals. It goes from that people should not go hungry, that they should be safe and clear and clean electricity, energy, life above and below the sea should be protected, environmental rights, the right to education, etc. Sorry, and just to briefly speak to you, but to remind students in case you don't know, with the SASIF Goes Digital proposals, SASIF subscribes to the research and discussions about the SDGs. If one does submit a proposal, it is something that must be linked to the SDGs. So how are women's rights or women's things peculiar to women protected in South African legislation. Obviously, the most important piece of legislation is that of the Constitution. And Section 9, the so-called Equality Clause, says one may not discriminate on the basis of gender amongst a host of other things. I've listed some of the important pieces of legislation. So the choice of Termination of Pregnancy Act is the right of a woman to have an abortion within the first trimester. There does not have to be any consent, not of parents, partners, spouses, anybody like that. And in this regard, we are way above a lot of other developed countries. The Domestic Violence Act provides a tool for women, and I'm saying women because statistically women suffer domestic violence. I do not say that men cannot be the recipient of domestic violence, but the statistics tell us otherwise. Another important thing was the Criminal Law Sexual Offences and Related Matters Amendment Act, which changed, amongst others, the common law definition of rape, which now includes anal rape, object rape. Object rape is to use, for example, a bottle and to insert it into a woman's vagina. There's a typo. The Cyber Crimes Act that recently entered into force prevents, is a tool in the arsenal that women can rely on. You cannot post things like revenge porn, which we'll get to later on. A lot of legislation has changed over the years to ensure that women, regardless, or firstly, to ensure that all women, regardless of race, that one is treated the same, and that in the marital regime instance, so that if there is no ANC, an anti-nuptial contract, the Americans call it a prenup, then one is automatically married in community of property. There was a lot of rationalization, important in particular in our rural community here in Northern KZN, but throughout the country is the recognition of Customary Marriages Act. Beforehand, customary marriages were not recognized in the same manner as was a civil marriage. So a man could get married and according to customary law, and then marry a woman in traditional civil law, and that woman would be considered to be the wife. Civil Unions Act allows women in same-sex relationships and men to enter into a union. It's also for heterosexual couples who have an issue with the construct of marriage can enter into a civil union. The LRA underemployment says that it is an automatically unfair dismissal if a woman is dismissed on the basis of pregnancy, intended pregnancy, etc. The BCA provides for family responsibility leave, maternity leave, although the BCA maternity leave is unpaid maternity leave, one can then claim from the UIF. Very important is the Employment Equity Act. Government, bigger companies, and and organizations that choose to do so submit employment equity plans to make sure that the aim, amongst others, is to ensure that women progress up in the ranks, but you don't just have a big female workforce, but that they actually get into managerial positions. And then there's some just a list of other pieces of legislation that may have an impact. Unfortunately, though, although we have a lot of laws protecting the modern woman in South Africa, they find themselves, they, including me and you, all the women listening, find themselves in danger zones. So what do the numbers say? Only 1 in 5 women report physical violence by a partner to SAPS. Women and girls over the age of 13 will experience in their lifetime 1 in 2, 50% of South African women would have experienced some form of intimate partner violence. 40% of South African women would have been raped during their lifetime. Think of that. It is a shocking, shocking, shocking number. And it is estimated that only 1 in 9 cases of rape get reported. Femicide, killing of a woman by an intimate partner, 10 per 100,000. Sexual harassment at the workplace, it is estimated that at least 30% of women would suffer some form of sexual harassment at the workplace throughout their lifetime. This is a South African statistic. These statistics were obtained from SAPS and Stats SA, etc. So, what is sexual harassment? It is unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature. Sexting, sexual jokes, sexual innuendos, touching, accidental brushing against someone. So sort of when you lean over a woman, brushing her breast or her derriere, sexually staring down people. And remember, when we talk of this conduct, it can be verbal, it can be physical, and it can be non-verbal. Women, and again, I'm not saying it doesn't happen to men, but I'm focusing on women. Some of the effects that have been reported is one is uncomfortable, you're scared, one avoids going either out of your house, one doesn't want to go to work, one may be scarred physically, mentally, emotionally, and it has an impact on one's personal relationships. If it is a crime such as rape or sexual assault, one can lay criminal charges. One can obtain an interdict, damages. So damages a monetary amount It's founded in dialect, and time is running short, so I can't really go into that. At the workplace, there's a disciplinary code and a grievance code, usually in bigger organizations. So if your boss is sexually harassing you, you do not first have to address the matter with him, and again, mostly because it's the men sexually harassing women. One can go to HR, institute a grievance, and there is a procedure that may be followed. Throughout, please seek professional help, even if it's just how to cope with this. And remember, sexual harassment is not your fault. It is the fault of the perpetrator. Domestic violence. It can be physical, sexual, emotional, psychological, economic abuse in a domestic setting. The 98 Domestic Violence Act expanded the definition quite a lot. People living together, whether it's as intimate partners or sharing a house, family members, etc. These are some of the examples that are included in the definition of domestic violence. Very often, the physical violence starts with a bit of shoving, and then a bit of punching, then assaulting, hitting, scarring, stabbing, and unfortunately, too often ends in femicide. Emotional, and please, if you're in a situation, these are the warning signs. I'm not a psychologist, but I've read a lot about this, and I've worked in the field. Your partner isolates you, controls you, and frightens you. Psychological abuse, name calling, embarrassing people in public, threats of harm to your kids, your family members, your pets, your possessions, anything like that. Well, I'm going to commit suicide unless posting of revenge porn or abuse on social media. Economic abuse, controlling the purse strings, not allowing a woman to have their own money, or failing to give money to acquire necessities, and preventing them from working. These are some of the signs of domestic violence. So women who suffer from domestic violence have a sense of isolation, loss of self-worth. It can result in serious physical injury, resulting ultimately in femicide. It breaks one down. There are some more examples. So what are the remedies? If it is a crime, you can report the person, one can report it, like if you are raped. And yes, it is possible to be raped by your partner, your husband, your boyfriend. No is no. But one can obtain a domestic violence interdict, one can obtain a general interdict against harassment. Person can be arrested if there are things like revenge porn, etc. One can take down notices can be issued, damages can be claimed. But please, if you suffer, if you are in an abusive relationship, or you know someone who is in an abusive relationship, it is incredibly important. And when I was working at Power, is to allow the woman to make her own choices. Do not say go and get an interdict. Stab him back. Please don't ever say that, because you cannot encourage a crime. But her choice, her agency has already been removed. Let her make the decision. It is one thing, again, the law is there, it's great. But where do you go if you have no money, you don't have a job, you've got kids, family members, and this has got nothing to do with race or income or anything. Family members often force the woman back into the situation. Oh, it's not that bad, or he's your husband, he's the head of the household, just grin and bear it. Everyone's got to have an exit plan. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to stay? How are you going to earn a living? And please, if one intends to seek an interdict, and it is available, but in my experience, seek professional guidance and assistance, because it has happened. And I'm not discouraging women from obtaining a domestic violence interdict, but you need to be aware of the facts that once that interdict is served, the abuse either escalates or it results in femicide. That's why one needs to seek professional guidance and assistance. Stand up, say no. We've got wonderful women in the struggle who have had wonderful things to say, but because we're looking at the modern woman and in the working environment, I've chosen the following three women who've just said the following. So Professor Madonsela said, throughout life, I've learned that the most important critic whose judgment of my actions matters is my conscience. Can you eat more? Failure is an opportunity to learn and to do better next time. It's part of the path to greatness, which was never smooth. So if something goes wrong, things always go wrong. Learn from it, grow from it. Former Miss South Africa, Peggy Sue Kumalu, your purpose becomes your passion, whatever it is. Children, community, family, it's what gets you out of bed every morning and keeps you moving forward through good, bad times and bad. I thank you for listening, and I'll take questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss, for the presentation. And before you leave us, there's something we prepared as means of acknowledgement for your availability and for your addressing. That will be done by Miss Noto.
Before we apologize, do you have any questions or comments to Advocate Skuman?
So, Bishop, we were going to have that after. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Advocate Skuman, for your well thought through and researched presentation on women's legal rights. You have opened our eyes in an amazing way, especially on women's legal rights and the legislative frameworks that are connected to it. Thanks especially that you had to leave your workshop to address us. That shows just how much you are passionate about women's legal rights and the emancipation of students and their well-being. We believe that what we have shared today will remain on our breastplates, and we will pass it on to those who could not be with us today. And we hope to share it also with those that we encounter in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those kind words, and I wish you well in the rest of your program today. Thank you.
Round of applause to Ms. Kuman. Then moving forward with our program. Yes, I was saying that moving forward with our program, the next point will be discussions. And it will be done in this way. We are going to have external discussions, and then also we're going to open up a pool of discussions in the house. And our first discussant, it's going to be Ms. Zama Velazi. And her biography goes as follows. Zama Velazi holds an LLB degree from the University of the Western Cape. Ms. Velazi currently enrolled as a master's student in the Faculty of Law at the University of the Western Cape. She is a research assistant in the Office of the DVC, Research and Innovations. Ms. Velazi's area of interest include, but are not limited to, human rights law, children's rights, and customary law. Her general motivation in her personal and professional life is exploring topics that touch on social justice and inequality. This measure of her research with her own ethical motivations is what we commit her to her work. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction. As my bio correctly states, I am Zamantoma Velazi, and my area of interest are indeed human rights law and inequalities. I was very excited when I heard about today's topic because it is right up my alley of interest, and I just want to thank you guys for organizing today's workshop or webinar. I think these conversations need to be had, particularly in the climate that we find ourselves in as South Africans and the world at large. Now, Advocate Schumann before me spoke extensively around legislative provisions and etc. So I'll try and not bore us with those nitty-gritties, and just I would like us to start off by locating the female experience within society. So looking at the female from childhood and into finding themselves in leadership positions within our societies. So when you look at international law, you'd often come across, or children's rights law for that matter, you'd often come across the term the girl child. One of my learned colleagues once asked me, why don't we talk about the boy child? Why is the term the boy child not a thing? And we cannot discount that boy children experience hardships in societies as well. But then when we look at the scales in which girl children are exposed to social ills, it is far more than what boy children experience. Not to say that they don't happen. It's just that the statistics tell us that girl children suffering within varying societies is a bit more extreme. So in many cultures, the girl child is denied her human rights. When we look at issues of inheritance and equal access, we would see that there are disproportions when we're looking at the girl child and the boy child. One great example would be education. In many societies, the girl child at a certain age, particularly when you look at the teenage years, is expected to drop out of school and take care of home when the parents maybe go to work, so on and so forth. The girl child from that experience is conditioned to be a nurturer and a homemaker. This shapes the experience it shapes the female experience extremely. Boy children are often allowed to go to school and socialize as and when they see fit. There's not much rearing or limitations when it comes to the rearing of the boy child. I am of the opinion that the rearing of girl children and the rearing of boy children does not complement each other. And hence why we face the challenges that we face later on in life, such as when females find themselves in a leadership space, because when we were being reared, boy children saw their female siblings as people who need to take care of them, really don't have much freedoms, and oftentimes girl children are encouraged not to express themselves and to toe that line. So when you come across females who are outspoken and do not ascribe to those values, it becomes very challenging as well for the boy child to acclimatize to that kind of experience. So now when we move from the girl child and we move towards a woman within society, I think then the triple burden comes into play, which is the reproductive, productive, and community work. The reproductive is very interesting for me because in a very women who find themselves in very competitive careers, the question of the reproductive becomes one of great interest, because taking 9 months off, having to carry a child for 9 months, not being able to engage in certain activities, it really hampers the female experience, particularly in the workspace. Noting that a lot of complications might arise during this period, and adjusting to the process in itself. And this differs from region to region. Some countries have amazing reproductive laws for women and protect them. And some countries, this comes with a lot of job insecurity, particularly when you look at the case of the USA. And then the productive. Women need to be competitive in the job market. They need to climb the corporate ladder should they find themselves in corporate, and meet the demands, because now you're asked in the dating pool, you're asked what do you bring to the table, and oftentimes these are the environments that women find themselves in. And the community refers to activities primarily undertaken by women in the community. So this triple burden is always present, and I feel like the standards for women are set at a much higher level. Because you must come with all three to be a package. In as much as you can have a PhD, particularly in African cultures, you might have a PhD, but once you go home, back to Eslalini, you are asked, where's the husband, where's the child? So women are expected to have all three. As when I was growing up, it was often said to me that meaning that men just need to make money, and that is good enough. Whereas for females, the bar is a bit unattainable. So when women enter into leadership spaces, there are some barriers that they encounter. So despite maybe overcoming the productive and community, and you find yourself in a leadership space, there are certain barriers that come into play. You find yourself in a male-dominant location of power, systemic challenges within the workplace. Women are expected to adopt male standards of leadership, which we see this play out whether in the academy or corporate. This is often the case. Women must meet the male standard of leadership. So their voices are often stifled, despite maybe a woman being the chairperson or the CEO of whatever organization. If she's the only female there and the boys club are in cahoots, her voice is stifled. This comes out to play. It's not a uniquely African perspective. It is seen throughout the globe. Women are often viewed as emotional and subjective when they become authoritative over certain situations. It's always people brushing them off, people around them brushing them off as being emotional or subjective, whilst men are viewed as rational and objective. So these are the viewpoints, and these are the issues that women encounter when they're in leadership positions. I'd like to move on to my next point. Women are often accused of not supporting each other in the spaces in which they occupy. And I must contest, this is a true reality. We've seen it all around us. However, I feel like we jump the gun and we don't unpack why is this so. I think it is important for us to explain this issue critically as opposed to just dubbing women or female leaders as catty. Women leaders find themselves in spaces where they are continuously reminded that they are special to be there. They should be thankful to be there. They do not belong in those spaces. Now, by virtue of human nature, it becomes threatening to them to see other women occupying these spaces because we are continuously reminded that we are disposable. So I think maybe, so I know feminist scholars unpack this very much, and I think it's beneficial for us who are interested in these topics to read some of those readings. The issue of gender inequality in leadership spaces, I am of the opinion that it pokes holes in the critical race argument, because the issue of gender, it pokes holes in the critical race argument, which centers race centers race at the issue of social ills. And I think when we look at gender inequality, it has existed in our societies prior to our encounters with the colonizers. So we really need to unpack. Advocate Schumann alluded to an issue of power, patriarchy and power, and we need to unpack this power and its extent in which it informs these social ills around gender-based violence, the pay inequality, so on and so forth. And I think the historical materialist appreciation really does give us guidance in this regard. South Africa has perfect legislation regarding issues of gender inequality and so on and so forth. However, we're one of the countries who have the highest crime rates around issues of gender inequality. So on paper, everything is perfect, but then our realities speak a different story. So as opposed going forward, I think it is important for us to truly understand the systemic issues that are at play around the issues of gender inequality and gender equity and in higher education, in leadership spaces. We need to move away from issues of affirmative action to gender equity, where women find themselves as true leaders in the spaces in which they occupy and feel that their voices are heard, as opposed to just meeting the quotas. Thank you so much.
Let's give her another round of applause. And moving to our next discussant, we were supposed to be having Ms. Nokwanda Kumalo, the TG current president, and the SASOF student network representative. But on her behalf, we are going to have an orator, which will be Clebo Zungu, as he has forwarded a speech to us.
Greetings again. Ms. Nokwanda Kumalo is the current President General in Tswana University of Technology, and she's the first female President General in the history of TUT, and as well the longest serving President General. She's the CEO of Press Forward and the youngest council member of TUT. The speech reads as follows. The triple burden faced by women as a result of their triple role in society is a major barrier of women's economic empowerment. Women's work includes reproductive work, which is domestic work, child caring and rearing, adult care, caring for the sick, water and fuel-related work. health-related work. Productive work, which includes work for income and subsistence, including work in informal sector enterprises, either at home or the neighborhood. Formal and formal employment, and community managing work, which includes activities primarily undertaken by women at the community level around the provision of items of collective consumption. This gender division of labor perpetuates women's subordination and prevents them from realizing their full potential and enjoying their human rights. Women primarily perform reproductive work, while in many societies, it is not considered as real work. It is time-consuming, demanding, and tedious. This division of labor based on sex and time demands and time demands has confined women to the private sector and inhibited women from venturing into other economic enterprises. Rogers refers to the domestication of women and urges that the domestic ideology has reinforced the identification of house as the women's place. As such, reproductive work is naturally considered women's work. Domestic work has no clear demarcations between and leisure. It is without beginning and end. And in many societies, women tend to work longer hours than men. A critical issue concerning reproductive work is the lack of recognition of the economic cost, which has resulted in it being undervalued, unpaid, and its invisibility. Of crucial importance is to recognize this as work and the obstacles it presents for women's economic empowerment. Measures need to be put in place to lessen women's workload and reduce the time burden posed by reproductive work. There is urgent need to improve women's condition at the household level and assist them in their traditional roles to create more time for them to embark on income-generating enterprises. However, improving their condition needs to be done in a transformative way. The challenge is the gender division of labor and women's subordination to men in society. This calls for women to know their rights, organize, mobilize, and challenge injustice. The fact that in many societies, women play the triple role, experience the triple burden, and are primarily responsible for the reproductive work calls for the provision of more gender-responsive public services, such as water, electricity, health and education. The availability of gender-responsive public services will go on a long way in lessening their burden at the household level and contribute to their economic empowerment. Thank you very much.
Let's give a second round of applause. And the last one. So the first two was for the person who scribed the speech, and then the last one was for him. I guess it was fair, right? And so then moving with our program, the next one, it will be from the floor. I think it would be best if we also intertwine it with the questions that are to be asked to the latter speakers. Though they are not available, I think Chair will be the one to note down the questions and provide responses where he can. Where he cannot, he will see how we're gonna be able to make follow-up responses to you guys. And I'll be taking the first pool for discussions. It's time for questions. Okay, now I start with the questions first. Oh yeah. And to those who are joining us live, you are also allowed to discuss by the show of hand. Going once, twice, 2.1, 2.2. Five.
I think you don't have to sort of like discuss exactly what the previous speakers talking about. I think the primary interest of this topic for everyone is to learn to experience on the topic. I think you foresee what the reason why we say modern women. You are the future women, so to say. What are the challenges of experience? And I think you are all leaders in this room. Therefore, you have picked up either from your constituents or yourselves the experience in terms of the topic as it says, or the three roles or the multiple roles of women as a woman. So I think we are truly interested to hear your voice, especially the leaders that you speak for the constituents. And each and every one as a constituent. And yes, maybe you can also engage because we have and then also include to our viewers across, because I'm seeing even my colleagues from Sweden, you are able to, we can also engage on the topic, everyone can engage on the topic. So anything, your experience on the topic, that's what really intrigue us. Yeah. So I think you can take it to there. I think everyone knows.
I second chances are ready. So this is the second and mostly the last one. Okay, let's start with questions. Is and then Fiona, or if you're going to be the only one, I think. Oh, and who's the only two? Going once, twice. So, all right. You can come to the point.
Greetings to everyone here. My name is Awale, but everyone calls me Fiona. Hello. I'm in the Faculty Council of the Faculty of Science, Agriculture and Engineering. I am the secretary. And I don't have questions because we were told obviously it doesn't have to be questions. I actually have things to say, unexpected. I appreciate this conversation. It's really great. I have brothers. I have 3 brothers. I am the oldest of them. So I liked the part of the conversation when they're speaking about the multifacetedness of being a woman. So you expected to be a sister, a mother, a leader, and whatnot. And I think I can relate to that a lot because as much as I have accolades to my name, really when you go home, you're expected to be a certain, toe the line. And the first speaker actually spoke about being a smart woman and knowing when to say certain things, when to do certain things. And I kind of cringed because I really don't agree with that. I really do not believe in towing the line. I don't think any woman should be told to toe any line because who drew the line one? And why are we ones expected to toe that supposed line? So I feel like if you are a woman and you have opinions and you have things to say and you have thoughts, you should say them and wherever, whenever, because nobody asks a man why they do certain things or why they act a certain way, especially in leadership. Because as a person who's in the faculty council, I am looked at, and my colleague who was here as well, is we are the only women in the faculty council, and we were the whole year scrutinized for being women, and we were expected to do certain things. We were expected to fail in certain aspects as well. So when you make one mistake, they're there to catch you. And it's like we were put in like a certain box where because we are women, we are expected to do this, expected to do that. And as a result, we weren't even involved in a lot of the conversations because we are women. It's like, Wazi, what do you know as a woman? And I see that a lot in a lot of the things. I had a conversation with someone in the SRC who actually said we would never as a school, or we would never as choose to put a woman in the Secretary General thing as because women can't be trusted. And I really didn't understand what that meant. Women can't be trusted. And it comes back to what the previous speaker spoke about, when men say, no, but women, you don't like each other, and you guys are always against each other and fighting with each other. And I'm like, we are fighting against each other because we are fighting for scraps. The men will eat the whole cake and they will leave the scraps. And what are we supposed to do? Share scraps? No. We fight with each other because we are taught to fight against each other from endlini, from at home. The person, no, we must all be pagala at the same time. It must be equal for everyone. So from a young age, you are taught, no, as a woman, you have your place and not. And that place is very small. So you can't not fight for it. It's not women fighting against women for purely we are women. We are fighting against women because we don't have anything else. So we can't fight with men. The men already have everything. They already have everything. So we're not gonna fight with them. And when, God forbid you fight with a man, your life is over. They will make sure you can't do anything at all. So you don't have a choice but to fight against, because now they're also fighting for those scraps that you are also trying to get. So I think men should, and it's not supposed to be our prerogative to teach men how to act, to teach men how to speak, to teach men what is the right way to think. Men should make it a point for themselves. No, this human being, before she's a woman, she is a human, and she's probably as capable as I am. We went to the same school, we have the same credentials, so she's probably just as capable as me. It shouldn't mean anything, and I shouldn't be standing here telling men that. That's something that you should know. You're a human being. So I feel like these conversations are great. I love them a lot, but I think men should also take responsibility. They can't always women to always teach them how to act a certain way and not your mothers. You must yourself look into yourself, and even in your friend group, you must look at the conversation you're having with your friends. What are these people saying? No, this can't be it. Teach yourself, because a man, before listening to a woman, I always think a man will always listen to another man first. So take that responsibility, talk to each other, teach each other how to be better humans, not just better men, better humans. Because it's names abantu. So thank you.
Let's give me a second round of applause. Moving to our second discussant is going to be Enzo. She won't have to come to the podium, but you'll be able to see her on the screen.
Everyone, I'm Enzo Visa, founder and chairperson of an NPO based in Durban, team manager of Unison Ladies FC, GCI project officer, house committee member. My point is, for a second, it's a bit scary. You know, I'm surprised because we're all scared, but we're all women here. But we're even scared to take a podium. You know, I wrote this speech 10 minutes before you said that we should discuss, but I was a bit scared. You know, I felt like, can there be someone speaking on my behalf. I don't know why we as women are always scared to take a stand and speak on our behalf, because every time we're given a chance to talk, we're always saying, can it be like, I was looking, can nobody say something on our behalf? You know, we're always waiting for someone to say something first before we say something. But can we as women stop to stand in behind men's shadow and take a stand? It cannot be, we see, it's our capabilities that limit us. It cannot be we are always seeking for less. It's okay, I can be a deputy. No, it's okay. Why, for a change, country fights for something different? We also want to something big. You cannot be always with, it's okay to be an extra member of something. It's okay to be a deputy. You know, we see, for you to function as a deputy, someone who's on top must be upset or must be busy, then we can see you. For a change, we need to think differently as women. We need to support each other. Yes, we know the world belongs to men, but the world cannot, there cannot be a man without a woman. We need to take a stand and fight for each other. If there is someone who is leading something, even if we have differences, but as long as it is a woman, we must support the person. We must always support each other so that even men can see there's something we can do as women. My second point was, can we also stop waiting for this thing of about 40–60% for us to get somewhere? Like, we see, I know we see with top 5, there should be a woman. So obviously we'll get the slots, and there's this thing of 40%. No, it should be our capability that should put us there before the gender. It cannot be, we'll see, it is always to be the gender deciding for us. My work should speak for me before I come forward and they say, we'll see, this is a woman. It should be my capability. You know, as a team manager under football, I started being a team manager for the men's team. It's hard leading 30 men as one person. But if you know what you are doing, you will be able to lead these people and they will listen to you. It doesn't have to be a man, or it does not have to be something hard to lead a men. No. You must tell yourself, I'm capable and I will own this. I will be able to do my job without being criticized or being told, you have to do 1, 2, and 3, and this is your limit as a woman. No, you must always go beyond limitations. You cannot do your job under someone's expectations. If I'm being told your job is 1, 2, 3, leave this aside. This is not for women's job. No, you must always go extra mile. In each and every piece you are given, do something extra. So they can even see this woman, you cannot just say anything, or it's not easy to shake this woman because she knows the story. You need to, it cannot be as a woman, you are always standing back. If someone says something to you that's criticized you, and you just take it. No. If you don't want something, you say it. If you're not comfortable about something, you say it. You don't have to swallow it and live with it and be like, if I say something, they're gonna say this, they're always gonna criticize me. No. Just say whatever you want to say, as long as you set your piece. Because how they feel, it's their own job. Another thing that might limit us, it's the way we think. It's never this about as women. You know, if someone comes with a sad story, say, that is how some people get jobs somewhere. If they know there is a woman leading, you know, if you go to that woman, and you talk, but if you know what's clear down there, we need to change how we operate, because sometimes we are not given things, or we're not given things that we are supposed to get, because they know how we think. I've always lived with one motto that says, think like a man and act like a woman. Because if you think like a man, you only think about what you want and how you achieve it, no matter the circumstances or no matter what is around you. But as long as you are focused on what you want to get, you will do whatever it takes until you reach it. That's how I live. Thank you.
And this was the first pool, and I'm gonna take the second and final with interest to tie. And we're gonna have Mokolo, Mundi 2, 3, 4, 5. Going once. 6. It's a maid. Finally, it's a maid. Oh, okay. The sequence is Notolo, Nomonde, Cleo, Asanda, Lisa, Wele, and Petovas. I don't know. Okay, yeah. I think you can discuss from the floor. The camera will come to you. Yeah? Okay, all right.
I didn't get a chance to greet properly when I first came up here, so I'm the sport officer of the SRC, chairperson of the All Sport Council, and manager of basketball. Is introduced as So what I'm here to say today, as one of the women in leadership, basically it's to encourage bonke abantu besifazane to actually take their rightful place as leaders in this society. I did a little research before in and ayikho ningi, but what I did find was on Cleopatra. I think most of you guys know Cleopatra and what she was famous for. She was famous for seduction, mostly in story with Julius Caesar. But she was not famous for her good works and as a good leader. So just to quote from one of the websites, she was a goddess, a queen, and a skilled diplomat and negotiator. She was a great politician who knew how to show off her and her country's power and influence. And local Yindo Esngayizwa very often about her. We don't hear very often futhi about women in leadership and we hear mostly about men. For example, in the US, it's been a lot of years. President Vespazani. We've never had a woman president in South Africa, and I think local action right. We know ourselves as women, we are capable of leadership. In fact, we are more than capable. So OWAM is to encourage everyone to actually take their stand and practice and exercise leadership and they are capable of. This thing of inferiority has been taught to us. we had many chiefs and queens who were, oh, well, queen is a woman, and we had a lot of chiefs back in the days, in the olden times. But as this courtesy progressed, we are taught that we are inferior, that we are incapable of leading. So I'll reiterate again, mine is to be here and remind you, you can actually do it. You can actually do it. And in the words of Fiona, don't hold the line, step over the borders, break whatever barriers are. And even if people don't believe in you, if you have at least one person, and if you believe in yourself for the most part, then because you cannot be if you have not envisioned it. So if now you will let this get to you, I know we are cultured, as Fiona said, it starts at home. You are taught that you are inferior, you are taught that you come last as a woman. So as young people, and I think we are at childbearing age, most of us are at childbearing age, and going at Dala will be building families. And this inferiority, I'm glad our generation has realized isn't as mean as in Zagalai. And I would love for Uguti, the families that we raise, these are the things that we believe in and not conform to what society teaches us. Before I leave, Jengiz, or a quote from Cleopatra, which says, I will not be triumphed over. And niktate to heart if you want to. If you don't, we won't all live by the same quote. But if you believe you cannot be triumphed over, then you will not be triumphed over. And yeah, perfect. And also to encourage other listeners, you should bring to a halt this narrative, women are incapable. I'm not sure if SRC member who said what they had said about not wanting secretary. In fact, I've experienced it too, where I lead as a chairperson being referred to as a secretary, because as far as I've researched back, chairperson wesifazane sport council. So abantu basajwayele leyo narrative leyo ukuthi umuntu wesilisa uyena chairperson. Currently, I have a chairperson, secretary wesilisa, and I'm the chairperson. But I've had people refer to me as the secretary, and as a woman can actually do it. Yeah. So once again, Tanda Njogun encourager, Nyatanda indlela esikuyo njengamanje, and I hope ukuthi sizoqhubeka kanjalo. And whatever sifundayo la sifundise nabanye abantu besifazane. Maningi ama-issues asithintayo zabantu besifazane, but nale leadership nayo iyasithinta kakhulu, and I hope ukuthi everything that we've gathered here namhlanje and things that we learn as women leaders, so as we share with other women abakhona ngaphandle and empower them. Yeah.
Let's give it a round of applause again. Then our second discussion is gonna be Onomondisha. Let's give it a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Please forgive my voice. My name is Nomo Delamili. I'm the former Deputy Secretary of the AFFS Student Command, and I'm the SRC Legal, Constitutional and Human Rights Affairs Officer. Okokuqala-ke engizoqala ngakho, it's a question and then a contribution. Professor Ntombela uke wathi into eyenza abantu besifazane ukuthi isikhathi esiningi bengaphumeleli, it's because of a competition ababanayo. Okay, let's just say we have a competition sonke thina singala, and then siyakhona ukuthi mhlambe sikwazi ukuthi siyilungise, but then sidila kanjani le competition eyenziwa abazali emakhaya emndenini yethu, because you will find ukuthi ekhaya uma bengithethisa and they will mhlambe bangifanise noNobahle, mhlambe bengicomparishe ukuthi uNobahle bethi why ungafani noNobahle because yena use-university, uNobahle uyabo uyaqeda mhlambe she was graduating last year yabo. So into ukuthi noma uba mhlambe ungakwazi ukuthi angiphendule ukuthi how do we deal with i-competition eyenziwa abazali beyenzela thina nabantu abalingana nathi kwi-society esiphila kuyona. And then i-contribution enginayo ukuthi-ke bengithanda kodwa ukuthi singayikhuluma abantu besilisa bengekho le, kodwa ngoba bakhona it's fine. Singabantu besifazane thina sodwa, we must not wait until i-9 August so that we can be celebrated. You'll find abantu mhlambe mhlala 9 ekuseni noma nango-12 nje ebusuku so postiwe kuthiwa there's no true social tonton. No, well, inganekwane. You must not wait for i-9 August ukuthi we are equal to the task. Why kumele kuma sekuyizi-9? Why futhi kumele kukhethwe abantu kuma-structures and then bese kuthiwa kumele kube mhlawumbe 51% of females and then 41% of males. Kodwa uma ukuthi mase kumele sihlala i-structure kukhethwa noma uyabo kusuke sekufakwa ama-females noma ngakuthiwa bakwazi, kodwa ngoba uyi-female uyaziwa bakufakele lokho, and then usu-structure bazokhupha kuze kuphele i-term. Ngobani? Abakaze mhlambe ngoba bona they know better amabesha, abakazi bahlala nawe bakugayida benza yonke into bakukhethele ukuthi begcwalise lo ya 51%. So into engifuna ukuyisho kubantu besifazane ukuthi we are also equal to the task. Nathi singayenza lento, so sinikeze nje i-chance ukuthi okay sigayidwe yabo, because ezinye izinto sisethe ngama-emotions, but uma sigayidwa yonke into singakwazi ukuthi siyenze ngendlela. Nalena le secretary ukuthi ngesikwazi mhlawumbe kuba ne-secretary we-female, cha hayi angaze zayile the podium I'm the next secretary.
Let's give a second round of applause. And our second speaker will be Cleopatra and Zama.
The difficulties of being a woman. It's one of those days. Yet I have to stand here, but it's okay. Greetings. Cleopatra, Secretary of ANC Youth League Unizulu Branch. I'm also the regional task team member of FISASCO in Zama, and the treasurer of South African Youth Council King region. It is very overwhelming knowing pretty well ukuthi you are always constrained to izinto ezikudefinayo and izinto ezidefine society. Mhlambe kule nyanga ya-August we are being celebrated. Omama uLilian Ngoyi, your mom Joseph sabahambanga bayome Union Building for 30 minutes straight without saying a word to each other ukuthi thina sazi ukuthi makumele sidiscuss kumele sihlale phansi. Let us celebrate a woman who did. Let us celebrate ukuba umuntu wesifazane as they did. Angisho ukuthi mhlambe asibe ne uprising ukuba umuntu wesifazane right now because it's August. Ukuba umuntu wesifazane it's a full-time job. It's a 365-day job. Ayikho day off ekubeni umuntu wesifazane. You go through the emotions, you go through the tears, you go through the sickness, you go through the pregnancy, you go through the judgments. Kodwa makumele uthole ithuba lokuthi usukume ume phambili uyasaba because you're scared of what other women might say about you. It's not about that. It's about you being a woman. It's about you taking your time. It's about you taking your turn, and it's about you standing up for what you believe in. And my discussion will be centered around the triple challenges that are facing in South Africa today.
modernity. I would like to believe with those triple challenges, they are infringed or they are felt mostly by us as abantu besifazane, because of our cultural norms that were laid with background yethu as umuntu besifazane. One of those challenges nje yokuqala is inequality. I believe ukuthi according to our cultural norms as South Africa, umuntu wesilisa nomuntu wesifazane abasoze balingane. Mhlambe into engathi khoza lokho ukuthi when you are always judged, umuntu wesifazane wena makumele wenze into, you can never do it as much as a man can do it. Umuntu wesifazane, when you have emotions that are holding you back as a female, you have that nurturing instinct ekhona kuwena. So ezinye izinto you cannot just bulldoze them and go through them as umuntu wesilisa would do. Mhlambe leyo ukungalingani, leyo inequality materialize from that. Okwesibili, triple challenge is unemployment. It is very difficult to work in today's field being compared to male. It's very nice to see mhlambe oFiona no Bahle defying the odds, leading a faculty aga science, which is a work field ongathola abantu besifazane abancane. We are really hoping ukuthi as you are there, you are inspiring women to go out and work, you are inspiring women to say engineering is not something that is only for men. It's not something that can only be tackled by a male, because mhlambe unengqondo enkulu ukudlula wena umuntu wesifazane, or une-manpower ukudlula wena umuntu wesifazane. I think one of those triple challenges, unemployment, it is mostly faced by us because we are always compared to strengths of umuntu wesilisa. Angifani nomuntu wesilisa, I'm more stronger than a man. A man never carries or bears a child for 9 months. A man never goes to a labor ward and feel their pain, you keep umuntu amlethe emhlabeni. You can never compare me to a male. So yini kumele kumele kuzisebenzi mina restricted because I'm a female, ngizotshelwa nge-manpower mhlambe ne-workforce ukuthi I won't compare. I am as much a human as a male is a human. I can dominate in the fields of science as much as a man can dominate. Ingqondo yami iyalingana nomuntu wesilisa, if not more. Can we not be restricted to a physical appearance here? So we cannot be employed in certain fields. The last triple challenge is the poverty. We understand that there was the urbanization and industrialization. Yaphoqa obaba bethu to vacate emakhaya bahambe beyohlala koGoli beyozama imisebenzi. Ahambe umuntu ayofuna umsebenzi angaphinda kuye. Lento le ithathe wena as umuntu wesifazane ifeke kwi-forefront of taking care of the family. Mind you, sasenaleya triple challenge unemployment. You can never go and work farming ngoba wena awunawo amandla wesilisa. Where else lo muntu wesilisa wenzeni? He packed his things, he went to Joburg to look for a job and he never came back. So uzofika laphaya uhlale ube ne-woman headed home, kube wena okumele unakekela abantwana, kube wena okumele uclean, kube wena ozofesa ama-societal questions akubuzayo ukuthi iphi indoda yakho ibalekile. That intends ukwenza ukuthi le triple challenge ye-poverty kube yithina abantu besifazane ebhekana nabo kakhulu, because honestly speaking abantu besilisa abanayo that sense of responsibility. They do not have that nurturing thing. Umuntu wesilisa akanqeni ukuthi akutholise abantwana 4 or 5. Wake up the next day and decide that he doesn't love you anymore. In that not loving you anymore, he's including the children that he himself contributed ukuthi beze befikela emhlabeni. Can men please take responsibility? I'm not necessarily hating on men. I just want men to confess and take responsibility. Bebona ukuthi le nto yokucindezela kwabantu besifazane nabo they also have a huge role to play kuyona. Mawuso vumile lokho I'm sure we can find ways of moving forward kula triple challenges esibhekene nawo. We can find ways of saying let us invest in women in science. Let us invest in agricultural practices for abantu besifazane abasele emakhaya bezokwazi ukuthi bebeke ukudla etafuleni. Let me invest in saying uAsanda can lead as much as any other male in the room can lead. Let me be the man who first say women are worthy, women are capable, and women can lead. Because it cannot be ukuthi uzothi mawukhuluma kuthiwa ha Cleo uthanda ipower. Cleo wants to lead everything. Where else Cleo can say that Cleo is capable of leading? There's nothing wrong with seeing yourself as a leader. There's nothing wrong as believing in yourself. Why can't you as a male say, SG was a SRC or Wesifazane? Kusho wena njengomuntu wesilisa, because I think wrong, honestly. I can think as much as an SRC member or SG. Fiona can think as much as the SRC member or SG. Unomol is very much capable of being an SRC member of our SG. There's nothing wrong, honestly. Gender differences azoyenza ukuthi singakhuli singakhona ukutacklisha ama challenges esibhekene nawo kwi-country. So okwami nje bekuyilokho. Thank you.
Now our next discussant will be Afan, of course.
Thank you all. I'll start by thanking the ladies of SASO for taking this initiative of making this event possible. It's highly appreciated by the women in leadership. We all know the saying, it's a great one indeed, but at times it's scary. It's scary because it's something big. And we have to be strong, at all times, forgetting that we have feelings, and we have to abide by this term, because if ever something, maybe you plan to about amadoda azothi vele wayicabangani lo, this is not indawo yabantu besifazane abazodedema and stuff, because men are used to ukuthi umuntu wesifazane category. For example, usakhula whereby kuthiwa a man cannot be a chef, girl ayikwazi ukuba i-civil engineer fixing cars. Abazali bethu ibona babesifundisa ukuthi intombazane iyaklina iyashada iyahamba. But till now we are privileged. We are very lucky that we are living in this generation whereby sisikwazi ukulida kuma-universities, whereby abazali bethu back then babengakwazi ukuba sema-university, babegcina grade 2 kuthiwa ke wena-ke nomfana kamdlatshi, umfana kamdlethu uzoshada uzokunakekela. Which makes sense. But what I will emphasize, is unity among women. We can't be having a bitter leader, because you should be the one who should be open to other women and empower, and be the most welcoming person in the field. Because you're experienced and you know how things are done. If ever there's a new girl in the field, you're the one who should be open. You're the one who should teach that girl, okay, this is how things are done, this is how we should do it, because you are experienced and say the position again. So we should be thinking some guidance, and as women, we should be the one who should be helping one another. By helping one another, there will be more women in the working space, and men will be used to having us around, especially because we are no longer living in the 90s. We are living in this generation, and we must ensure that we use the privilege of generation. We must work hard to a point where we do not be shocked whenever we are contesting a particular position. For example, there at the Kunyangaya SG. As women, we should work hard. And another important thing is self-confidence. We do not need a sponsor on our ideas. Whenever I want to do something, I must contact him first, then he will sponsor it, and then we think about, oh yes, you're right. Whenever I feel like, okay, because I'm leading a faculty, but then me not just because I'm eating locals. I-idea yami kumele ngiqale ngihambe ngikhuluma nowele uthi yazi wele ngicabanga into ukuthi and then by doing that unikeza lento yokuthi vele lo siyaphetha by siyadinga approval yokuthisa no instead emakhanda abo ukuthi ngempela siyaphetha because akakwazi ukwenza anything without me. And
We cannot make one another feel inferior. And we do not need men in making our lives successful. As you manager Andrew said, you must be capable for that particular position. You should not get a position because I'm lead, and then you are getting that position. Men will not take us serious, because by doing that, we're instilling that we need them in order for us to be able to be in that position. Just because we're thinking about SG and we do not do that. If ever usebenzisa umzimba wakho for ukuthola iposition, lokho kuzokunikeza isithombe yena ungasekho engaze kutshela usakhona, but then ngikathi usungasekho uzosho ukuthi hawuyazi usifana if ever ngidingi abanga just sleeping with umuntu ongamazi awusabe status sakhe just because wena usuyabona ukuthi mangena la ngiyawina ngenza ukuthi kumele kuwena self-confidence yakho wena as a person, as a woman, you must have your own values. For example, uzathi uthi okay mina asanda ukuhlose ukuthi angikwenzi nokuthi angikwenzi, because lokho uma ukhule nakho waba nakho bona ngaphakathi wathi okay mina I will live by my values. Lokho ngeke kuze kukwenza ukuthi contradict izinto, because imagine sleeping with umuntu ongamazi just because ufuna iposition ulokhu okay ngilidi YCL okay sengifuna ukuya kwi-region, hayi mina ngeke ngumuntu kwi-region ukuze nakhona izofaka igama lami. Lokho especially because we are living ngo-2022 whereby izifo zigcwele, and then kuthi women mina sinesifo whatever. At times we are the ones esenza ukuthi abantu besise basithathe kancane. We should have our own values. We should have our own values and please.
Round of applause. Moving with our sequence before. Oh yeah, we had Lisa. Our next speaker will be Lisa. Can you give her a round of applause?
Thank you, Lisa. I would like to extend my greetings to the House at large. Before you is Lisa Sibisi, the political educator of Sadismo Unizulu branch, with a very short message for Imbokodo. We are leaders. We are destined for greatness. Ours is to educate and liberate those whose minds are open for leadership, because the future is us. Each and every one of us is called to be proof that women are not weak. We are destined to do great things. The vision is to see women strive, and therefore should embark on a restless mission until that vision is prosperous. It is time to break the chains of silence, to untie the knots of inferiority and submissiveness tied on our young feminine minds. We are leaders, and no one can tell us we cannot be. Thank you.
Another round of applause. It was actually my first time witnessing someone saying I'm going to be short and they actually be short. And I had an afterthought from somebody before we jump to the maids, because the maids, I think they're going to be the last ones to discuss, and we have our other discussant who can see. Can we give a round of applause as she accents this?
Sanibona. Njani? Siyaphila. And I'm going to be very short. I want to say, firstly, I'm so lucky to be here. I'm so lucky. I'm now a very interesting introduction of myself. I'm not an executive member of what organization, what, but I was just like appointed to volunteer to be here. So I came here, and God knows I love such conversations. conversations revolving around women, empowering, all of that. So I'm so lucky to be here. I'm just a member. Is South African Women in Law Association Student Chapter. I'm so lucky once again. So I just want to pinpoint a few things about the fact that they say we were raised in a patriarchal society. So zonke lezi zinto lezi that we're facing, it's just by virtue of the fact that they've already alluded to that fact. There's a patriarchal society. So it's going to be difficult for us to fix those issues. But we're trying, okay? We're trying as women. We are trying, we're doing our best. Mina, personally, I believe in working on yourself first. Before there's feminism, there's what. But just work on yourself. A lot is gonna change. You must look in the mirror. If you wanna fix the world, you must look in the mirror and work on the thing that you see in the mirror. Obviously, you see yourself in the mirror. So if you work on that person, the world is gonna be so much better. The world is gonna be so much better. We're gonna have so much happening for us. So we can't get into like certain positions because men can't trust us. It's because maybe we're not working on ourselves enough, you know. Personally, I just believe in that. Work on yourself, on yourself, girl, and everything is gonna be fine. So that's all I just wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Another round of applause. Now, there's a very thin line between appreciating speakers. The loudness of the round of applause makes volume, and it's mostly alarming when you clap for another one more than you clap for the yes one. So from now going further, whenever you attend a gathering and you are asked to give a round of applause, I did this purposely just to remind you guys that what one person captures themselves or what one person perceives themselves as after a certain gathering, it's through the interaction with the audience. One can come out of this place thinking of themselves as a president or as what, because when she spoke, you guys clapped, but the other can see themselves as a lesser person because after she spoke, nobody clapped. So moving with our sequence, we're gonna move to the minutes now, and we only have two. For the interest of time, I would love for them to come a bit closer, and then they're gonna come in sequentially without me coming in and everything. The first one will be Wele, affectionately known as Wele. His name is Untumise Kunene, and then the other one will be Valo, and then they come sequentially. So. The round of applause as they are saying this.
Good afternoon, ladies. CTJ, naze nabahle nimbokodo. My name is Cleopatra. I happen to be a leader as well in the space. I won't say where I lead because I've been taking the candle for you ladies. You're shining very well and you are the leaders. We see you in a space on campus. I must firstly acknowledge that that as much as we live in this era, as much as we live in unjust society, but we do recognize you on campus. We do recognize your potential. First, that's just what I wanted to acknowledge. Well, mine is just, it's gonna be difficult for me to be short. I mean, considering my height, but I will try. Well, I just want to make two references, rather precedents, which proves, or rather at least tries to show that we are moving at least in a fair pace, and it's changing, the world is changing into a better place whereby there's no gender inequality, and then women and men are shared equally, they share everything equally. I want us to, I'm so sorry, I'm doing law, so I'm just gonna reference at most with the law because before us, before everything is the law. There are two cases which happen to be my favorite cases and which I'll be doing research upon. The first one is Bear versus, well, I forgot the opposing part. But on that case, it's a lady whom there was a lobola negotiation, and then the male side of family had refused to enter into a negotiation with the female. The lady did not have parents, did not have a mother, did not have a father, and she only had the grandmother. And we had no gogo, we have negotiations. But now, that family said, you know what, we can't enter into the negotiations with the woman. The court ruled otherwise and said, no, there's no such thing, there's no such thing, we never allow that thing to happen in the space now. So now, that global negotiations were successful and headed by a female gogo. The case number two, Lifau, I think is famous of it in Limbombo. What happened there was that, of course, Limbombo was denied to a female because her father has given birth only to her, and her uncle wanted to take the throne. It has been an ongoing case for over 10 years. But finally, in the past few years, the court has ruled that she is the rightful person on that throne. There is a whatever you do, trust yourself. My colleague came here and said, before anything, look at the mirror. Before you try to change the society, change your mindset, everything will fall into line. They say, the leaders, famous leaders, they say, trust the process. I'm saying to you, ladies, trust the process. Trust that you are capable. Trust that you're going to do it. I thank you.
No. Well, thank you very much, Program Director. Greetings are extended to the House and all protocol observed because there are people who are listening. Mine is very short. I just want to have some few submissions to the ladies in the House. That first and foremost, I will also start about the issue of having someone detecting on your who shall be what and who shall be what and so forth. And in our space here on campus, you must be guided by the constitution maybe of those societies or whatsoever, and also the statute of the university and so forth. There is no one who shall say who shall be the secretary of the SRC and so forth because of your gender and stuff. You are equal to the task, no matter what, be a female or a male and so on. The constitution of the SRC is very clear. There are no societies that are contesting. Student individuals are contesting. You as females, you can unite and say, we want a female president. You can get that president or an SGL or whatsoever, even on societies or faculties and so forth. First, it must start with you. You will get whatsoever you want. You must learn to love one another. Why am I saying this? Is because us as males, whenever maybe we are approaching SRC elections or any form of elections, maybe societies or faculties and so forth, I nominate nobody to be the chairperson of the faculty. The only person who will come and say maybe nasty thing about nobody will be females, not males. Start from the females. Say no, nobody will get you because you should know. They don't say any capabilities for nobody. They face in the battle who get because we are children and stuff. Can you be united females? That's the only thing that will assist you in any form of suppression and so on. Be it in cultures where there's last year maybe you must change all those things. Those are dilemmas. Fight for your own structure. A new generation that is coming with another structure that will say, no. There's nothing as what mind must say this. A family must be a family, and there must not be maybe a head to baba ngubana uthiwa umuntu mafanele lokhu zanibonsana noma a decision must come from bottom. I'm partially covered about le nto kathi show uqeda uvala ukuthi namhlanje uyakwazi umuntu wesifazane ukuthi ahamba ayonegotiate because of i-capabilities. Makungabi ukuthi i-gender elokhuzana nekhona makukhulume i-capability. Trust yourself. Thank you.
Another round of applause. Yeah, before we move forward with our program, I would love to teach you guys a little bit of physics and life science. Just for 10 seconds. For sure, it's not everybody who studies in the Faculty of Science, right? And okay, I have a little thing. Maybe if we can all see, I'm not sure if it's showing. Yeah, from my screen it is. For those who are also on the screen, you can check the chemical formula for iron is what? And I'm right? To those who are studying in science.
Yes.
And the gender for a person that we consider as a man is what?
Male.
Fe and male combined spells what?
And
then female equated to what I've just, my life science and chemistry makes up what? That's what a woman is to me. And then moving forward with our program, we are going to have closing remarks by Chairperson Umtembo Ante. Let's give him a round of applause.
Program Director Nifam Kondo, all the way from Limpopo. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for directing the program so smoothly. Before I say my word of thanks, I just want to wear another, because I'm wearing two hats by standing in this podium. One, representative of SASUF in University of Zulu, and two, globally. So I've just wear the first one, the global, and appreciate the work that has been done by SASUF Student Network at Zulu. For there are a lot of, within the month, Women's Month, there are so many programs, but I think this one touches the nerve because we've identified leaders within campus who have a lot of people who look up to them. So whatever has been discussed today, let it initiate a lot of discussions. In SASUF, we normally say that all programs, all dialogues, everything begins with a dialogue, and there must be a project initiated afterwards, a long-term project. So whenever we have dialogues, it normally initiates a project. So now, I think since you're all thinkers and scholars, aspiring scholars and leaders, most importantly, because that was the sampling method that was used, or the sampling technique that was used, we identified leaders. You need to go back to your constituents and then come back and unite and say, how then do we use this platform to champion a united front? Because honestly speaking, beyond the colors of your organization, there is a leader and you should be united. And really place it very correctly when you said,
you have you guys can be able to say what a female president, and you guys can have a female president. Even in the US, they're still struggling to have a female president. In South Africa, we still have problems, with identifying a female president. So you guys must be united. When I remember this one time, the African National Congress said that because they're a government party, so that's why I use them as an example. We going towards the Nazareth, where the Women's League said they wanted this person to be deputy president, but because of politics and how men are able to divide women, there was no deputy president, because we were going to have a first elected deputy president within the ANC. They failed to do that because women were separated based on groupings, and they failed to see the bigger picture, because if they united, they could have had a female deputy president in the country. So what I'm saying is, you must never let us dictate your preferences, so to speak. You go beyond that, and then come back to what my speech is to say, to read out the vote of thanks. First of all, Bishop Makaya, as well as Msimthembu, we thank the pastoral care unit at the University of Zululand. I don't think we could have managed this without you. The internalization office led by Prof. Mashia in absentia. We truly appreciate all the support and the mandate, because she mandated us to come up with this with a project of any sort. But she said, no, you guys cannot leave the Women's Month. So we felt it's okay. Let's not do what everyone is doing. Let's come up with something productive. So I trust this is a task I'm giving you guys, which we're hoping as a SASO student network that you guys will come to us with a project and say, as leaders of University of Zululand, we want to do this together, or we want to have this program that will initiate discussions about women emancipation. Because as a SASO student network, we have 5 focus areas, and gender equality is amongst them. And in October and December, I think we'll be launching it globally. But currently, we as University of Zululand have started a discussion. My colleagues across both in South Africa and Sweden, I saw some of them who were part of the program, who were participating or virtually. From now onwards, we are going to have another program, maybe in UP, because I think that's the way they are the ones who are championing gender equality. What can you guys do on that and when we're launching that? Because we've identified you to be champions of gender equality. Now I'm saying this with a University of Zululand, you guys will be champion gender equality. So how do you guys want us to shape it in University of Zululand? Those are the discussions that you should have as a woman in leadership in University of Zululand. So I lobby you guys to go back to the constituents and come back and say, no, you see, we feel this is the way we need to champion this going forward. And as a SASO student network, we are open. As you can see, it's not politicized. We're wearing no colors. It's just us with a goal of pushing our universities to look at the sustainable development goals. So basically that's us. So we have a Facebook page, which is SASO Student Network. We have a website where you can go and read about us, because you need to go back to a constituent and say, we were invited by so-and-so. I'm sure some of you accepted invitation not knowing who is SASO Student Network, but we appreciate that you came. So next time when you do come or you do accept our invitation, you know what is SASO Student Network. So I'd love you to go to our website, SASO, and then just type SASO and you'll see us. We'll be there. Prof. Ntombela, our first speaker in absentia, truly appreciate her for taking the time and coming to this gathering and opening our events. To Advocate Skuman also leaving the meeting and coming to us. We truly appreciate that. She had a workshop that she was currently busy with, but she had to leave that workshop and come and deliver that note address. So we truly appreciate it. Ma'am Velazi, all the way from Western Cape University, we truly appreciate Nogwanda Kumalo, the president, and kind of the reasons why SASO Student Network felt that we should have this program is one, the people that are lead with SASO Student Network. I mean, Nogwanda is a representative from Tshwane University. She's the first female president, and she has led for 2 terms.
she's finishing a second term as a president. So if Tswana University can do it, University of Zulu can also do it. I think we also have that potential, we have capacity to also do that. And I lead with the president of Ilipopo University. She's the first female president, let's say UP, first, second Black female. So you can see which all universities are now getting on the trend, you know. So leadership, we promote women in leadership as a student network. I'd like to thank the team, the Student Network team. Planning events is never an easy task, especially when you're planning an event and not so many people know who you are. You need as much support as you can get. So I appreciate, we're still new, we're still teaching other young leaders. So I truly thank you guys, the whole team. I thank you all for your contribution. But most importantly, I thank the young leaders that took time to come here. I mean, you are leading, you are students, and you have boyfriends and husbands. So I truly thank you guys for divorcing all of those responsibilities and come and accept invitation of people that you probably don't know. But I'm hoping that will change going forward. We want to engage with you as much as possible. And okay, now I need to direct the proceedings now. We are going to have a group photo. I think CMD probably ushers into that. And then we do have a refreshment. Mr. Zungu, no Miss Kuzwayo will lead us on that. I think they will usher you guys. But I think before the refreshment, you're gonna take a photo. Then afterwards, the program will be led by Bebo Zungu as well as Ms. Kuzwayo. So I thank you all, guys. Before I end, there's a song that has been in my mind that I think because of the Women's Month, it has been playing all over. I'm just gonna change it because I'm a man, but you guys know the song probably, and you're probably going to sing it better when you get into your residency. So the song is "I Am Woman," but I just want to say, you are a woman, you are fearless, sexy and divine, unbeatable, creative, and you can get in line. You are feminine, masculine, you are anything you want, and you can get it going on. Hello, Cindy.
Libertà!